Welcome back to today's episode on the Homestretch podcast, where I'm going to be diving deep into the emotional side of buying your first house, because if you've done it, you understand it's one of the most stressful things ever. So I want to go through all the ways that you can handle stress, things that could crop up, things to expect, so you're not caught off guard. So you might have clicked on this podcast or this episode because you're maybe going through a lot of stress with the house buying process, or you are about to go through the process. You're brand new, you don't really know what to expect, and you kind of want to prepare yourself for for what can go wrong or what to potentially expect when you're going through the house buying process. So just a quick recap. If you haven't heard my story before, which I'm sure quite a lot of you have, so I'm really sorry if I sound like a broken record, but me and my boyfriend went through the house buying process last year in 2024, and we had 6.5 months worth of delays on our house. And as you can imagine, this caused a lot of stress and a lot of overthinking and a lot of tears. I will admit it. I cried a lot. I'm going to be the first to admit it. I documented my whole process on TikTok, where I was basically doing daily updates. And some of the updates were, you could just tell, I feel like, in my expression and the way I was filming, that I was just frustrated and angry and, just didn't really know what to do. And I couldn't believe how many other people was going through the same situation or understood where I was coming from. So I feel like this episode is here to help you feel like you are not alone. It is very normal to go through a lot of stress when you're buying your first house, in any house. I cannot imagine what it's like to buy and sell, by the way. My heart goes out to everyone that has done that in the past, because it's not something I'm looking forward to in the future. But yeah, so throughout the 6.5 months, we had a lot of ifs, buts, potentials of going wrong, the house maybe falling through. There was just a lot of things up in the air. So yes, it was very, very stressful. But there was things that I did that I think has helped me that could potentially help you too. And I feel like now that we've been through the process, we know what to expect next time, and we know when to chase. We know what documents should be ready when, what things we can do earlier in the process to kind of make sure we're ticked off and ready to go. So those are the things that I'm going to share with you today. So hopefully your process is a lot smoother than ours, and you don't have an emotional roller coaster like I did. I went crazy, I swear, but we're here, we're in the house now, which is great, but it doesn't erase the fact that it was stressful. And some people have a really smooth process. Most people don't, unfortunately, but we'll go all into that in today's episode. So the one thing that I think is really important when you're buying your first house is you need to set realistic expectations. So we went into the process thinking that we'd be in 3 months. It would be really smooth because the sellers were moving into a new build. So of course, it's going to be a smooth process. How were we wrong? But we didn't set expectations. Now, our solicitor kind of did set expectations. It was more around like the 3-month kind of mark. And I'm here to tell you that whatever your solicitor says, I would add a few months onto that just in case. Because we had the expectation that when our solicitor went on annual leave, when he came back, we would be halfway through the process, and we hadn't actually even started because of delays with the contract pack, which I spoke about in another episode. So make sure to go back to that if you haven't watched that already. So because of that, we felt like we were behind before we'd even started. So I feel like setting expectations and not trusting every single thing that people tell you, just going by what you are expecting. For example, it could take up to 6 months, not just 3. And I think the average time at the moment is anywhere between 4 and 6 months. And that does not surprise me, because when I was going through my journey on TikTok and talking about it, so many people were having similar issues and a lot of people were experiencing delays, and it just made me feel not alone. It was really nice that there was other people going through the same thing, and we were just there supporting each other and, trying to get through the hardest thing of our life at that moment in time. So I'll break down into stages what every single section should maybe be like roughly. And you can kind of set your expectations earlier on if you haven't started the process yet. Or if you're in the process right now, you can kind of like flick through for where you are at right this moment. So first off is searching for properties. So when you're going through the process of viewing houses, you expect to find the dream house, the perfect house fairly quickly, but that just is not the case. If you find your house within the first 1, 2, or 3 viewings, then wow, you have hit the jackpot and hit the lottery, because that is pretty impressive. We viewed, I think, about 15 houses altogether, and this house was number 15. So you have to set your expectations to the fact that you might have to view quite a few houses before you actually find your right one. And it might seem quite long and it might seem quite draining, because I found viewings quite draining in the end, but just keep at it and view as many as you can. But if you do find them early, great, but just expect that it could take a lot longer than you think. We actually spread out our viewings probably like maybe 2, sometimes 3 on a weekend. And, even then, we might have only had 1 that weekend and then 2 the next weekend. But we were viewing houses for like 2 months. So it does definitely add time onto when you think you're going to get a house. Your process in terms of like legal matters obviously don't start until your offer gets approved. So that's after you are viewing houses for maybe a couple months. So you have to kind of add that on to the time frame that you think you're going to be moved in by. But again, like I said, if you find your house like soon, that is like amazing, and that's going to cut out so much time for you if you want to move in quickly. But this is a really, really fun and exciting time, because you're viewing houses, you're looking at the potential, you're looking at what you do and don't like, you're, cutting down what means a lot to you, if it's like a garden or an ensuite or the location, things like that. But just use this time to actually have fun and enjoy it, and not feel like this was one of my favorite parts of the whole journey, because there was no stress of solicitors and delays. But it did take a while to find our house, so that was stressful as well, because you want to quote unquote find the perfect one. But realistically, is there really like the perfect house for you? I don't think you find your dream perfect home. There's nothing going to be like ticking every single box. And if there is, amazing. But, things can work out in time, over time. So looking at potential is really good as well. Next stage is the mortgage process. Now, everyone's experience in this is going to be very different. Ours, we were very lucky. It was like really quick. So we got a mortgage advisor earlier on, like before we were viewing houses, and I really recommend that, because that helped us understand exactly how much we could borrow. You can even like get free mortgage advisors online. They're literally free, and you'll know how much you can borrow. So I do recommend doing that before you view houses. But the application for us was really great, because Nathan has a full-time job. I had a full-time job at the time. And, the mortgage lender, Halifax, we went with in the end, just approved us straight away. So the second our offer got approved, our mortgage advisor was brilliant. We did pay for ours. Ours was £200, but so worth it. She was incredible and was always there like to answer any questions and things like that. But I do think sometimes this process can be tricky for some people. It will depend on things like if you're self-employed or how long you've been self-employed for. It could have something to do with if you've got debts, or if you've got, credit cards, and what your credit history is like and things like that. That's why speaking to a mortgage advisor before is really good, because they can do a detailed check on all your past everything that could affect you getting a mortgage, and basically like give you the mortgage in principle through the specific lender, but then also recommend you and give you information on whether or not it's likely that the mortgage will be approved and things like that. So they'll advise you in the best way that they can. That's why I think they're such a big part of the process and makes it really, really smooth. I will say the mortgage process in general didn't take that long in terms of like filling out a form. So we sat down with 2 different mortgage advisors, and you have to go through your whole history of, your credit cards or your loans or your debts and things like that. But we were there for about an hour. So it only took about an hour to go through everything from both sides. But just be prepared that if you're buying with a partner and you're sat with like a mortgage broker, you will go through everything about your past. So like any debts you've got, you need to speak to them about it there and then. And so that's something to bear in mind too. But yeah, in general, ours took like not a lot of time at all. And then when our house offer got accepted, which was amazing, our mortgage offer got completely accepted and was like going through literally like the week after. So then we got the documents through from Halifax, which was really exciting. And they do like an online valuation from like the bank does, just to make sure that the property is worth the value that you're paying for it. Because obviously if you're getting a mortgage from the bank, they want to make sure what they're lending you is worth what you're buying it for, if that makes sense. And ours was, and that was fine. Again, there can be issues here. So it will obviously depend on the property. It will depend on whether, you've bought it at the price it's valued at. And I don't know what happens if the bank isn't happy with that. I think maybe you go back and negotiate with the sellers and the estate agents. I don't know because I've not been through it. But if you are in that situation, I would just maybe recommend speaking to your solicitor or speaking to your mortgage advisor on like what you should do, because that's the situation that I don't know personally. So yeah, I would definitely do that. The next one is exchanging contracts. You need to kind of expect that it's not going to happen really, really quick. When you exchange contracts, you are literally so close to completing on the house. Now, when you exchange your contracts, it basically legally binds you to that buying of the house and the property. If there's issues that happen after you exchange contracts on your end, you could be, I'm pretty sure, I think, that you are liable to potentially lose your deposit. If it's on the seller's side though, I think it's fine, but don't hold me to that. I don't know what circumstances there are. Again, we didn't go through this, but that's just things that can potentially go wrong. So that's something to expect. That can cause a lot of stress between exchange and completion. It can cause so much stress, but once you pick up your keys, it disappears. I promise you. The stress and everything from the house buying process just poof, gone. It's amazing. But leading up to exchange of contracts, like that is stressful too. And that was our longest kind of stint of delays. When we exchanged contracts, we completed within a week, one whole week. So that gave our sellers enough time to find moving vans. And yeah, some people exchange and complete on the same day as well, which I think is wild. That doesn't happen as often because you can't some people might struggle to get a moving van that quickly and things like that. So I don't know how people do it. I'm like, fair play. But yeah, so that's something to also expect, that even though you have exchanged contracts, that doesn't mean that the house sale has completed. The chance of it messing up in between exchange and completion is very, very, very low, but it is possible and it can happen. And I don't even know certain circumstances that it can happen in, but I just know that it does. So basically, don't compare your situation to others. Just hope that, your process is smooth. If it's a no chain on both sides, amazing. That kind of means that you're probably moving quite quick, but things again can also crop up, which if it's a new build or whatnot, as I know. But yeah, everyone's situation is different, basically. So setting expectations is a good way to start in terms of handling the potential stress of the house buying process in the future. Because if you expect something, then you have that in your mind of what that's going to be and you won't be disappointed. So if the house buying process is a lot quicker and that's what you wanted, then it's actually positive and a good thing for you. So it's more beneficial. Whereas when you're disappointed, that's when stress can really roll you up. And also when unexpected delays come in and out of throughout the whole process, that can be very, very stressful. And that's something that obviously happened with us and hopefully doesn't happen for you. But when things do crop up and there is stress and there is, a bit of an emotional roller coaster, some things that can really help is definitely communicating with your friends, your family, your partner about the situation. And this goes in terms of life as well. And if it's you and your partner moving into a house, for example, and one of you is really stressed, let's take me for example, I'm really stressed and Nathan's really chill. You need to work together because you're both going through the same thing right now. And you both need to be supportive of each other. And that's exactly what happened in our situation. Nathan was incredible. I do not know how I would have coped without him, to be completely honest. He was just really cool, calm and collected. He was always thinking logically, whereas I was thinking like what ifs and worst case scenarios. But he just really grounded me and leveled me out. And, he was just incredible. And he just knew how to communicate with solicitors and estate agents. He was just all round incredible. So if you listen to this, Nathan, shout out to you. I love you so much. You are amazing. Thank you for putting up with me throughout that crazy mess of a 6.5 months that we had. But we're in the house now, and that stress does leave when you move in. But while you're going through the process, and let's say your partner is stressed or you're stressed, you don't want to be putting the blame game onto each other or like taking out your stress on the other person, because that's literally going to make the situation worse. You need to be there for each other, supportive of each other, do things with each other that's going to build you up, and not just be sat in the house talking about the house, talking about the stress of the solicitors or this, that and the other. Do your normal things and keep that connection with each other. It's so important when you're going through this really stressful time of your life. And just not getting snappy with each other is what I can say, because when your stress level rises in general, it's so easy to take it out on the people that you love around you, and they're the people that are trying to be most supportive of you. So just give people the benefit of the doubt. Take a breather and realize that sometimes you might be the problem, and the way you're communicating how you're feeling isn't fair for the other person. So you need to be really careful with the way that you're acting and you're behaving, because if your partner is the one that's keeping you calm, you can't just be snapping at them, and it's just going to wind them up and just make them really annoyed. So we don't need that stress. We've already got the stress of the house. So keep that connection, keep that emotional connection, and just talk to each other like normally and do things with each other that make you both happy. One way you could do this is doing like an emotional check-in. So like maybe on a Sunday or a Friday, you can both say like, right, what is one great thing that's happened this week in terms of the house? What is one great thing next week that we would love to happen in terms of the house? What are we most looking forward to with the house? So kind of like having prompts with each other to be able to, have that positive discussion and not make it negative about the house and complaining and, just being generally a negative Nancy. You want to, be excited about the house. You don't want it to turn into this sad, dreary thing that's going on. It's like the best and most exciting time of your life. So try and keep the energy high and try and actually communicate with each other in a positive, normal way. And I will caveat the fact that responding for everyone will be completely different. Everyone's communication style will be totally different. And it's important to know and understand how you both deal with conflict. I can't remember what the thing is, but there's like a test that you can do online, I'm pretty sure, where you can understand each other's like attachment style or the way you deal with conflict and how you communicate with each other. I think just learning about each other in that sense is important when like you're both potentially quite stressed in a situation, and understanding each other is only going to help you. So look at things and tests and things like that online, because I promise you, when you understand how your partner communicates and how your partner deals with conflict, you can both then work with each other and not against each other. So next is the emotional toil of waiting, the anxiety, the build up, the uncertainty, the what ifs, the uncontrollable negative thinking, which I have definitely done. It's just a whole bundle of feeling stuck. It's stuck energy, it's stagnant energy. It's not nice. It's not nice to be in, especially over a long period of time. Like I was so stressed throughout this whole process. And I think a lot of it comes down to there being like a delay after delay after delay. But all in all, realistically, 6.5 months isn't too bad. And I really should just chilled out a little bit, to be honest. But I was super, super stressed. And it was the whole being stuck in the limbo, waiting, not knowing. And one thing you need to understand about the house buying process, and with a lot of things in life as well, you cannot control the situation, and it's majority outside of your hands. What you can control is yourself, the way you think, the way you behave, the way you act, the way you feel. That's what you can control. So you don't want to let something that's outside of your control you, if that kind of makes sense. You need to step back into the driver's seat and actually you don't want it to take control of your life and you spiral and you just are just not in a good place. And I was there a few times and Nathan brought me back to reality. You got to think that it's not the end of the world. What is meant to be is meant to be. That's how I view things anyways. Obviously, everyone's going to be different. But I just think you need to realise that if the house is meant for you, it will be for you. And delays are just a delayed manifestation coming your way. There's a reason why you have to wait a little bit. Maybe you're supposed to get a bit more money. Maybe the couch that you wanted to buy is going to be 50% off when you move into your house. Like, there's always a divine timing for everything that is always working out in your favor. And I think deep down, that's what I just had to keep repeating to myself, and understanding that, you know, what is meant to be is meant to be. If the house really wasn't for us, I'm getting a bit spiritual here, but that's what I do, then we would have lost the house straight away. I think if the house isn't meant for you, the sale will fall through. And delays, you can have loads of delays and then it falls through, but I just think most of the time, if it's not meant for you, it will just fall through fairly quickly. So if that isn't the case, then it should be fine. So that's just what I think anyways. But honestly, journal out your thoughts. When you're in that stage of waiting, you can't do anything and you're just driving yourself mad, grab a pen and paper and honestly just write out how you feel. Say that you're feeling stressed. Say that you're feeling, you know, stuck or anxious or worried that it might not go through. I think it's just so good. It's such a great activity to do. And it helped me so much during our process. And the second those words are on a page, it empties your mind and it really makes you feel cool, calm and collected. I'm not joking. It's not going to be for everyone, but I just think I will always be an advocate for journaling because it helped me so much, and hopefully that can help you too. So finding emotional support when you're feeling overwhelmed, it can be hard. I've been there because people will say, you know, it's all going to work out, or your family and friends will continuously ask you like, what's the updates on the house? How's the house stuff going? You literally feel like you want to scream. You feel like you want to cry. I get it. I totally get it. It is just so important to speak to people about how you're feeling. Like, you're not going to get a therapist for going through the house buying process. Like, that's just not a thing. So you need to have friends, family, partner, like support to lean on throughout this process. I think just being in your own head about stuff can build up, you know, your stress on its own. So having a person to speak to openly without, you know, feeling like they're gonna criticize you or attack you, I think is really important. And that for me was obviously Nathan. Shout out to Nathan again. He was amazing, I must admit. If you can't find someone that can give you like the support you need, I honestly recommend going to places like TikTok or YouTube or just any social media platform filled with other people going through the same things, because there is so many other people that makes you feel not alone. And, you know, I think that's quite important when you're going through such a stressful situation. And it does make you feel better about yourself because it's like, oh, people actually understand me. People actually get where I'm coming from. I had that a lot when I was going through my house buying journey, and the support I got from people was so nice, and it really did make me feel like I wasn't by myself in this. So definitely reach out to other people on social media and they will support you. People will always be supportive. Most of the time people are supportive. But one thing I will say is a great thing to do when you're going through the house buying journey is having small wins. Even the smallest, tiniest little win will just keep you going. And keep a document of this as well so you can actually look back on it and see how far you've come. I do this with my work and I love it because I'm self-employed. It's a struggle for me for, you know, I don't have a boss or someone saying, you're doing great, you're doing such a good job, like keep going. It's just me. So I need to keep myself accountable and also celebrate myself with things because no one else is going to do that for me apart from Nathan. Nathan does that a lot. I'm really rooting for Nathan today, but he is honestly incredible. Small wins is an incredible way of looking back at stuff. So maybe write a weekly win list. The smallest of wins every single maybe Sunday at 4 p.m. Whatever's happened that week that was a small win or a great win to do with the house buying process, put it in there and watch it as the weeks go up at all these little wins that you're doing all the time. If you wanted to do it daily, do it daily. Like, do it as many times as you can, because I promise you, looking back on it, it makes you feel so good about yourself. And it makes all the delays worth it. Celebrate getting your mortgage in principle, or celebrate all your documents being submitted, or celebrate you get a call from your solicitor saying that they've had all their inquiries back now from the seller's solicitor, which is a great feeling, by the way, or booking your moving van, or doing a second visit to the house you're buying. Like any kind of win, they're quite big wins to be fair, but any win, small win, big win, every single week, write it down. I promise you now, these will hype you up before you get your keys. And when you get your keys, it's the best day of your life. But the evening when you have to sleep on a mattress on the floor, you have bean bags and you order a takeaway, it's different, but it's still amazing. So just to recap, guys, it is totally fine and normal and okay to feel anxious, stuck, even annoyed, or just feeling like stagnant and things just aren't moving at all. It is very normal. You're only human at the end of the day, and we as human beings love being in control. And unfortunately, this is a process that is majority outside of your control. So control the things that you can control, your mind, your thoughts, your behavior, your actions. That is the main focus. Once you can control that within you, everything on the external just aligns with you and it manifests and you get your keys. I wish it was that simple and easy. I really, really do. The process is a season and eventually it will end with your keys. I would love anyone that has listened to this to let me know, email me, DM me, or leave a comment of something that you've struggled with throughout the house buying process. You know, emotionally, did you feel anxious, or was it quite a breeze for you? And if so, like, what was your situation? Was it a quick sale? Was it communicative sellers or estate agents or solicitors? Like, I'm always so intrigued to hear people's stories about this. And I think it is quite nice for other people to see other people's stories as well and feel like you're not alone. So I really hope this episode helped and you've taken some key takeaways from it. Maybe it's a small win. Maybe it's expectations now about the house buying process, just something. If you have learned anything, then I've done my bit today. And if you're not a first-time buyer, please share it with your first-time buyer friends. They need to know this. They need to be prepared. I would really appreciate some love if you are loving this podcast. It is something that I'm really passionate about at the moment. And I can't wait for all the next episodes to come out. You guys are going to absolutely love them. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this episode today on the Homestretch podcast, and I will hope to see you very soon.